Okay, so today we're going to do a scrolling responsive web page. So open up OpenElement. Now if you've seen my first tutorial, you'll know how to make a static responsive web page. And this is what it looks like. So yeah, it doesn't scroll. We can click the menu. I actually lost the original, so I had to make a new one, so I've lost that beautiful image that I had. Anyway, so if you don't know how to do this one, I suggest you check out the first tutorial. Anyway, so now we want to convert this into a scrolling web page. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new group of elements. So on the right side, click Elements, drag a group of elements anywhere on the page, and now we go over to the left side, and you can see it's put it in the footer. Well, we don't want that, so let's drag it into the content of the main page. And let's rename it to, say, home. Now you'll see why I'm doing this in a minute. So essentially, I want to put everything on the page into this new group. So you can do this manually. You can drag it in, or you can do it on the Element Explorer over here, which I recommend getting into the habit of doing. So let's grab the headings into group, into home and content. Let's grab the group top menu into content. You can see why naming your groups, headings, everything is really important as the web page gets more complex. So now you can see the first problem. It's absolute positioning. So click on home, right hand side, properties, change it from absolute to relative. Okay, click on styles, change the width to 100%, and the height is going to be 100 VH. Okay, now again, a little bug with OpenElement. When you make the size VH in your editor, you can't really see the change. But when we save it and click preview, yeah, okay, I've got my elements back to front, but the height is correct. So this is a problem because we can't really edit it in this manner. So temporarily, I'm going to change the height to, I don't know, 800 pixels is fine. And that's only to edit it. Never leave it in that height. Okay, it's only so that I can see it in the editor. Shouldn't be that way. It's a little bit of a bug, but we can work with that. So I want to switch these two around. So I just drag it on top. I want to center my group of headings. change the top distance to 10%. Oh, that doesn't work. Why doesn't that work? Okay, let's go outer margins. Oh, that's too much. Let's just make it 20 pixels. And kitten and pup top 30px. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, that's looking okay. So now let's change the height back to 100 VH. Save it. Preview. Okay, that's fine. Okay. So now basically we have one I guess page, you could say, but we want multiple ones so that we can scroll. So so now you can see why I've put everything into a separate group of elements, which I've called home, because it's no longer just one static page. We're going to have multiple pages, multiple layers, if you like, on the one page. So essentially I'm going to create another group for about and another group for gallery. So I'm going to do exactly what I did for the home page. I'm going to create a group of elements, and I'm going to do that for about, and I'm going to do that for gallery. So I'll just pause for a minute and come back, because you don't need to see me doing that again and again. Okay, so after skipping ahead, I've now made a special group to contain the about page, and a special group to contain the gallery page. So you can see here I've made a group of elements, and I've put the headings group inside. I've deleted the index menus because we're not going to need those for the scrolling page. You'll see in a minute. Now, one thing I didn't go over, because we're dealing with a group of elements now and not the whole page, things have changed a little bit, and it comes back to absolute and relative positioning. So previously the whole page was actually absolute, which you may or may not have realized, but now all our objects are inside a group of elements, which is which I've made relative, because again we want it to be scalable to different devices, responsive. So it probably sounds a little confusing, but basically, because we're now in a relative box and not absolute, when we go to styles, we can no longer use positioning, top distance. I'll show you what happens. So previously I had it 260 pixels down, or 33% or whatever. It doesn't do anything because it's relative. It's not absolute anymore. So the positioning is only going to be relative to the top here. There's no other objects, so you can't use that. What we can do is use margins. So I'm going to create a margin at the top of 33%. Okay, or I'll just use pixels for this tutorial. So I'll make it 260. Okay, and I'll do the same for gallery margins, 260 pixels. Okay, and over here, I guess, okay, I've already okay, I've already played with that one a little bit. Anyway, don't worry too much about that. So now we want to grab our what's happened here? Yeah, okay, so like I said, when you enter VH values, you get all sorts of weird things happening when it comes to editing. But if we look at the preview, it's fine. So don't be too concerned with that. So what we want to do is select our About group, copy it, go back to our home page, click anywhere you want, and paste it. And have a look on your left side, make sure it's in the right place. And yes, it's correct. Under home, good. Okay, and do the same with gallery. So always best to use this Explorer when you can. Click on gallery, right click, copy, home page, paste wherever you want. Okay, look at that, it's put it in the right place. That's nice. Now gallery, I want to auto center that about, just double check that's centered as well. Yep, and home centered as well. Beautiful. Okay, let's save it. And you'll no longer need these pages. Let's check. And okay, we have a little bit of a mess here. Not what we want at all. So what's happened? Okay, my first instinct tells me that this is absolute positioning. When you get things all over the place, it's probably because of that. Now previously we could use absolute positioning for one page because yeah, there was only one page, it wasn't relative to anything. But now that we have multiple pages, we're going to need to change that. So believe it or not, you can change the whole page to relative. How do we do that? Well, let's click on page over here, properties, and this isn't going to work. I'll show you why. Click on sections. Now there's another way to access this, but whatever. And on main, click on position of elements. And look, it says position mode is set in the base layer. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. So we don't want a base layer for a scrolling page. So if we click on base up here, we can click none. Okay, and we take away that layering idea. I'll show you layers in another tutorial, but like I said, you won't need that for the scrolling page. Well, you could use it theoretically, but or could you? Maybe not. Anyway, we're not going to use it. So now we can click on properties, sections, and we can change the whole page to relative. Close that. Now let's save it and see what happened. Preview. Okay, beautiful. Now straight away I can see that my first page is here. I'll scroll down to my second page and to my third page. And you'll notice another thing, because I used VH for my height, it ends there. And when you scroll to the bottom, you have that perfect height. The same will happen on the second page. So that's the basics of the scrolling page. Now, well, first let's just change this margin to 260 for continuity. Okay. Again, the VH, you can't see anything in the editor. Really annoying. Let's save it. Preview. Okay. So there's your scrolling page. Now, you could stop there, but the problem we have is with our links. So if you click a link, we want it to scroll down, but right now it goes to another page. So that's what I'm going to show you next. Okay, so first thing we need to do is make our page editable, because we can't see anything. So click on your first group, home, and let's change the height to, I don't know, 800 pixels. So now we can see what we're doing. I'll do the same for about. You can press Control and click multiple, select multiple groups, and click height. Let's just change them all to 800 pixels. Okay, so now we can see our pages clearly. Now, in order to set up a link on a scrolling page, we use what's called an anchor. So if you click on elements over here, scroll down to navigation, there's a whole heap of different things you can play with. We'll use anchor. Let's insert an anchor. Okay, wherever. Okay, now wherever you put your anchor is where the link will show from the anchor down. So we always want it to be at the top of the page. So I'll put it up here and click on styles. Oh, okay, properties. And okay, where did it put it? Okay, so sometimes this happens when you place things randomly. It's put it in the top menu group. We don't want that. So grab the anchor and pull it to the content of your main page. Okay, and we're going to put him on top of home. Nope. put it in the content of the home group, and then place it on top. There we go. Okay, that's perfect. Now we need to do the same thing for the other pages. So I'm just going to right click and duplicate. You could put them in manually again. This is just quicker. So duplicate and duplicate again, because we have 3 pages. Okay, so let's put the what's happened? The first duplicate into the about content. Okay, we'll worry about him in a minute. And the second duplicate, we'll put him in gallery content. Okay, so all I've really done is just copied the element. Nothing, you don't need to do that. I'm just lazy. So if we go now to about, let's see where it put it. Okay, it's put it in the middle of the page. Let's just order him up. Now, I don't think I showed you this in the first tutorial, but you can drag items and see how the arrow changes to go below or above. It doesn't just put them randomly. If you put it on top, it will take priority, so it will go on top of the page. Now, let's do the same with gallery. So where did it put it? Scroll down. Okay, let's put it in the bottom. Let's move him to the top. Yeah, you can do it manually. You can drag it below, above, but I find when you do that, it never goes where you want it. Oh dear. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, see it. Okay. Anyway, let's not play too much with that. So now, you can think of your elements like page links. So give them names. So I'll call my first anchor we'll call it anchor home. Okay. And I'll call my second anchor anchor about. And my third anchor, we'll call it anchor gallery. Alrighty. Now that's almost it. We need to change the links. So just like we did in the first tutorial, click on home. You can go into properties, or you can just click this icon here, select the main link. And where we previously clicked our pages, we're going to go now to home page, and you can see the anchors are there. So I'm going to make home the home anchor, click on about, make it the about anchor, gallery, I'll make it the gallery anchor, click save, and now we should have a scrolling page with clickable links. So I click home and click about, and look at that, it takes me straight down to the page. So it's not a new page. I'm still on the same page, if you like. And I can go to the top and click gallery. Bang. So that's a really simple scrolling page. The last thing I want to do is create a little icon that will take me to the top of the page. So I'll quickly show you how to do that, and then that's it. So back to OpenElement, Elements. We're going to create an image link. You could make a text link if you like. Place that in there. I'll worry about the links later. Background, image. Now I've preloaded this image of a paw. So put him in, position, center, repetition, fixed, size, contain, and let's put him below. So where are we? Group top menu. Just drag him there. Okay. And alignment center. And let's give it some margin. 50 pixels. And then I will create the link. So link to homepage. And save. Now I want to copy this link. Oh, sorry. So I've made the link the home page, but we don't want to do that, because if you do that, it will reload the page when you click it. We want it to scroll when we click. So you've got to make sure you make it the anchor home, not the home page. Well, let's leave it. I'll show you what happens. So let's copy this link and paste it on the other pages. Center, copy, paste, and center. Okay, and save. And let's see what happens. So click on About. Now if we click back to the home page, see how it reloaded the page? We don't want that. We want it to scroll back to the top. So go back to your OpenElement and change the link to the anchor home. Okay, anchor home, and anchor home. Okay, save it, and let's take a look. So now click on About, and we click the paw. It doesn't reload the page. It just scrolls straight back to the top. Now, unfortunately, again, I've used a black plain background, so you can't see the scrolling effect, but it's you just have to take my word for it. When you click the paw, it scrolls back to the top. It doesn't reload the page. So now, if we go back to the editor, we can delete our other pages. We don't need those, so delete, and about, delete, because now it's a scrolling page. We only need the one page. So save it. Now, there's one other thing you might want to do. So if we click preview, and that is, you might want this back to the top link down the bottom somewhere. Okay. So because we've used relative positioning, you can't actually do that. If we go to styles, remember that you can't change the positioning. You can only change the margins, which is fine when we're talking about the margins from the top, but when we're talking about the margin from the bottom, well, there isn't really a bottom. It's a scrolling page, so you can't really do that. So we're going to do a trick. So because we've changed the page to relative, your website will stay responsive. So now we can actually change the groups properties to absolute. Okay. So let's change all three just quickly. Select them all. Properties, positioning, absolute. Now it hasn't caused too much chaos, except the pour is all the way over there. So let's click styles, and now we can position it from the bottom. So let's get rid of the margin. Bottom distance, if we make it 0, he goes straight to the bottom. Let's make the bottom distance, I don't know, 25. And the distance from the right side, let's make it 25 as well. So he'll be in the bottom right corner. So let's do the same for the other two. Gonna cheat and do them at the same time. Select them on the left side. Styles, bottom distance 0. Get rid of the margins. Right distance 25. Sorry, bottom distance 25. Remember, if you give it a bottom distance, it will push it onto the bottom. You know, and if you delete that and give it a top distance, it will register that it's going to be on the top. So that's all I'm doing. So let's make it 25 from the bottom. So now it knows that I want it to be at the bottom and it wants to be on the right hand side. Let's save it and let's take a look. Okay, so as you can see, it's put the pour on the bottom right hand side. Now, one thing you'll see we didn't change was the height of the page to VH, and you can see what the problems are being caused because of that. We have the height at 800 pixels, which seemed fine, but now you can see the issues. Never leave it that way. So remember what I said, let's change all three groups, all three windows to styles or properties, doesn't matter, styles, height 100 VH. Now the problem with that is you can't edit it, you can't see what you're doing. As I've discussed many times, it becomes really frustrating when you have to go back and forth and change the height to edit, but it's workable. Click preview, and now you can see the pour is right at where we want it to be, and next page, right where we want it to be. Click back to the top. There we go. So again, that's it. You have a basic scrolling responsive web page. Let's double check the responsiveness. We shrink it. Yep, that's good. That's beautiful. And the reason it still works, because remember we changed the individual windows or pages to absolute positioning, but we changed the whole page to relative. That's why we still get the responsiveness. Yeah, the responsive and absolute positioning will do your head in, I know, but once you get around it and it makes sense, things will work easier. So yeah, that's it. My next tutorials will be more on individual elements like anchors, layers, modal pop-ups. They'll be much shorter. So yeah, feel free to have a look at those as well. Thank you.